What's up, entrepreneurs? Want to talk to you today about having objects in front of you or between you and your audience, rather, not in front of you, but it is in front of you. So I have a desk right here. Now, depending on the situation, it is okay. But when you're on stage and there's usually a podium in place, I don't have a podium here in my office, so I can't use a podium. So I'll use this desk for instance. You don't want to have a podium in front of you at all times. Obviously, you have some notes that you need to go to refer to when you're speaking. That's perfectly fine. It's hard to memorize a speech, especially as it gets longer and longer in length. I suggest to memorize the speech if you can, but if you can't remember everything, it's okay. Now, I also don't suggest that you have literally every single thing written down. Make sure you have highlights or something, some bullet points, whatever works best for you. Figure out that system for yourself. But make sure that you don't stay behind the podium. So staying behind the desk, you want to make sure that you're actually getting out and around that desk or getting in front of the podium. So that way there's no thing or no object between you and your audience. But why is that? Well, it's because it shows maybe you're insecure. You're using this object, this inanimate object, as something to keep a barrier between you and myself when speaking. So I want to make sure that we don't use that as a crutch, especially when you're first starting out. This can be something that you get very nervous about and you just want to sit here. And speaking of nervous, a lot of times what people do and why you don't want to have that podium in place is you'll sit like this the whole time. You just hold on to the podium, usually on the edges here. The desk is obviously a little bit wider than the podium would be, but you're holding on to the edges and you're just talking the whole time, and then you're not moving around. You're not using that stage presence to be able to speak to the audience. So sitting here the whole time, you're probably sitting here getting white knuckled, you're holding on so tight, which again shows nervousness, shows maybe that you're not prepared, or people will think that even if you are completely prepared, people will start to think that, well, maybe Philip's not prepared. Maybe that's why he's so nervous and holding on here and staying still, and maybe he's actually got notes here and that's why he has to sit here the whole time. And with notes being there on the podium, you'll tend to look at them. So if you can, like I said, I strongly suggest memorizing your speech. Because if you have notes in front of you, the tendency is to not rely on that brain of yours, that mind of yours, to recall everything that you prepared, but rather look at the notes. And you're going to keep looking at the notes and you're going to start fumbling, which is going to make you look more nervous, make you look more unprepared. So that's why I say to get away from that podium. But that stage presence, that's another reason why you don't want to stay behind the podium. Because you're not going to have a stage presence. You're going to literally sit here and maybe you'll kind of look off to the left, you'll look off to the right, but you're not able to get in front of that audience there. And usually a podium is off to a side or maybe in the center, but it's in a fixed spot, obviously. And it'd be really weird if you started trying to cart the podium around and move it around every which way. That would be really weird, so definitely don't suggest that. But make sure that you're moving away, because otherwise the audience that's in that area where the podium's at may feel that connection with you still. They may not even think anything about that podium, but it still gives that perception that there is something in the way between you and your audience. And it makes it where you're not quite as vulnerable because you're not exposed, you're not open completely in front of that audience. But also for the stage present portion, you're not able to get in front of the audience to the left if the podium's in the center, or the audience over here to the right. And you're not speaking to everyone. And you're not showing that you are comfortable going across the stage and speaking to every different individual within that stage presence that you have. So that's why I say don't get stuck behind a podium. You're going to separate yourself from your audience, which makes them feel like you're not being as vulnerable. Maybe you're trying to hide something. You'll look nervous and unprepared because you're holding onto the podium for dear life and you're white knuckling it. And then you're going to use that podium, which will probably have your notes on it, and you're going to look at the notes rather than relying on your memory to recall the information that you're already prepared to present to your audience. And last but not least, your stage presence is going to lack because you're not going to move around and talk to the different parts of the audience. You're going to simply be in one spot, and you're going to look over here to the left and try and talk to them, but they're way over there, rather than walking over to them completely and talking with them, and then walking back over here to the right and talking to the audience on the right. You're going to stay in the center, and you're going to look at the people in the center, and you're going to look at the people on the right, and you're going to look at the people on the left. And they're not going to feel as connected. So those are the ways and reasons why you don't want to get stuck behind a podium.